of his journey there, and you can see him there
So yet another glimpse of Deion Patterson,
with U.S. Marshals, and
who
there
is
he
now, I
is,
believe, at the Fulton County
walking
Jail
into
in
that door
Atlanta,
there, the
traveling
alleged
from Cobb
suspect
County
in all of
into
this.
custody
So yet another
after the
glimpse of
allegedly
Deion
opened fire
Patterson
at
as he is
Midtown
now, I
Atlanta's
believe, at the
Northside
Fulton County
Hospital in
Jail
the
in
waiting room,
Atlanta, traveling from Cobb County where
injuring
he
four
was taken
people,
into custody
killing one.
after he allegedly opened fire at the Midtown Atlanta's Northside Hospital in the waiting room, injuring 4 people, killing 1. And so, like I said, we still wait for this press conference to begin there. And we're going to be speaking as well with one of our reporters, I believe at the top of the hour, barring if the press conference begins, we might have to abandon that there so you can watch the press conference live. And we can get a better sense of how law enforcement did this. Remember, just yesterday, we were in a similar situation, not in Georgia, but in Texas, remember, over yet another manhunt, search, and apprehension. I'm talking about 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza, who over the weekend shot and killed 5 of his neighbors, including an 8-year-old little boy. And that was a 4-day manhunt, and law enforcement finally got him into custody yesterday. And then, of course, we got the news today, early this morning on the West Coast, about around noon on the East Coast, that another active shooter situation was happening in Midtown Atlanta. And now the manhunt is over. I'm going to put up all 3 of our shots that we have. You can see a photo of the suspect. Like I said, some of you might be interested to see or hear if Deion Patterson has a criminal record or criminal history. That'll be a question. Also about the weapon he used. That will definitely be a question. And then, of course, the role of his family. We know that his mother is cooperating with law enforcement. Police at the latest press conference said his mother went with him, was accompanying him today there at the hospital. We don't know for what. We don't know if she was an employee there. That will all hopefully be clarified for us. We do know, though, the genders and the ages of the victims. Remember, like I said, all 5 victims that were shot were females. 2 39-year-old females, a 71-year-old female, a 56-year-old female, and a 25-year-old female, and that one of those 39-year-old females succumbed to her injuries. That is also something we need some clarity on as well. Are the victims, were they all patients in the hospital? Were they all employees of the hospital? Were they a little mix of both? We don't know just that. So remember, we learned from Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shirebaum, the suspect's mother was with him at the time of the shooting. She was not injured. Remember, you saw her get into the back of that police cruiser because she was going to be questioned by police. All right, so it looks like possibly our chopper might be flying away now that that journey is complete there from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The alleged shooter in the back, you saw it live as he got out of the car, flanked by U.S. Marshals and other law enforcement. The U.S. Marshals took him into custody. That's what we're learning. And so why don't we put up this shot full here. not in Georgia, but in Texas, remember. Over the weapon he used, that will definitely be a question. We do know, though, the genders and the ages of the victims. Remember, like I said, all 5 victims that were shot were females. 2 39-year-old females, a 71-year-old female, a 56-year-old female, and a 25-year-old female, and that one of those 39-year-old females succumbed to her injuries. That is also something we need some clarity on as well. Are the victims, were they all patients in the hospital? Were they all employees of the hospital? Were they a little mix of both? We don't know just that. So remember, we learned from Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shirebaum, the suspect's mother was with him at the time of the shooting. She was not injured. Remember, you saw her get into the back of that police cruiser because she was going to be questioned by police. All right, so it looks like possibly our chopper might be flying away now that that journey is complete there from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The alleged shooter in the back, you saw it live as he is. So, like I these feeds live, raw, and unfiltered. And remember, yet again, it does look like this conference is going to begin. There is the mayor of Atlanta.
During an enormously tense afternoon and evening, I want to thank our citizens for keeping calm, staying in place, and for providing critical information to law enforcement throughout the day. Now I'm going to turn it over to law enforcement to share an update, and I'll return to share a few additional remarks later. Now I'll turn it over to APD Police Chief Darren Shirebaum.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the members of the press for being here this evening. You all have played an important role today as we kept citizens both in Atlanta and Cobb County informed, asked for their assistance as we sought the apprehension of this very dangerous perpetrator. And thank you for returning tonight to again update those of our various communities. The mayor spoke today of a capable, competent, and brave response by the first responder network that served not only this city, but this region. And I just want the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department to know, those that are in our 911 center, our first responding officers, our tactical teams, our investigators, how proud yet again I am of you of the work that you have done today on behalf of this city. And in the most dire of circumstances, you have shown what you do daily for the men and women that call this city home and those that visit here. If you look closely on the earliest views from the crime scene, you saw not only the Atlanta Police Department responding, you saw a network of officers representing multiple agencies who have trained for this various outcome. Mr. Mayor, over and over again, that a day that this tragedy should befall the city, that we would be ready. And I stand here today to tell you that the first responder network was there today for their city. The Sheriff of Fulton County, Sheriff Labatt, the Georgia State Patrol, the MARTA Police Department, Georgia Tech Police Department, Georgia State University, marshals, they were all on scene quickly, executing their active shooter protocol to stop this situation. And then very shortly, we were joined by the GBI, the FBI, the Secret Service, as well as United States Marshal Service as we sought to bring this person into custody. And that investigation soon showed us that this perpetrator had left the city and remained a threat elsewhere. And Sheriff Van Hooser, I just want you to know that we are a grateful city tonight for your partnership and the efforts of your law enforcement agency to take this individual into custody. And then this morning, we celebrated the bravery of Atlanta Fire Rescue, not far from here as for their annual commemoration of Firefighters Day. And to see the paramedics and firefighters, when we did not know where the shooter was, that could easily have still been in the building around the corner, to see our firefighters dismount their trucks and Chief Smith go into that situation. But it wasn't the first time I've seen that, Chief, because we had seen that in training over and over again. And today, when it was necessary to save lives, we were very proud to see you a strong partnership as we moved into that dangerous situation. And thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask our Deputy Chief of Criminal Investigations, Charles Hampton, to come forward to recap what has transpired today, what we have learned from the investigation, and then Chief Van Hooser will come forward to outline how his department led to the capture of this perpetrator today. Chief.
Good evening. What we do know, we know that shortly before noon, the subject entered into 1110 West Peachtree Street and went to a medical center inside the building. It was shortly thereafter that he shot our first victim, and then the first 911 call came after that. He spent about maybe 2 minutes inside the building where he then exited on foot. And what we were able to pick up on the camera network system is that he went to a Shell gas station where he commandeered a vehicle. That pickup truck was left running unattended, and he took that vehicle. We were able to, again, use video to obtain a tag and immediately place that tag into our LPR system, our license plate reader system. And so at that time, we had to really do some work to figure out where he was at. There was a series of search warrants drafted both here in Atlanta and Cobb County because we were getting information of residents and other locations that he may go to. So that was done as well. And then roughly around 12:30, we received an alert from the LPR system that he was in Cobb County. And so that, again, we were on the phone immediately with Cobb to let them know that this individual was somewhere in their jurisdiction. And as Chief said, we'll then let Chief Van Hooser just kind of talk about what happened in his jurisdiction. But I would tell you that although we may not have known exactly where he was, as soon as we were alerted that he was out of our area of responsibility, we contacted that local jurisdiction and that coordination took place. Chief.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Van Hooser. I'm the police chief in Cobb County, just north of Atlanta. And first of all, I want to very much express our collective condolences to the families involved, and know that me personally, and I'm sure collectively from all of those who were involved in today's incident, that our prayers and thoughts are with the families that have been affected by this. Of course, we saw what was going on the news. We had heard through our networks of what was going on in Atlanta when we discovered that the individual had last been identified on a flock LPR camera in our jurisdiction. Of course, we sent officers to that area and set up, not so much a perimeter, but we began to look for the vehicle. And I will be honest with you. First of all, let me apologize in advance. I have not prepared a statement. I have not had time to prepare a statement. So what I'm giving you guys is not planned, and I will probably make a few mistakes, and I'll probably forget to thank some people. But what I can tell you is this: these are massively complex investigations, and information comes in so quickly, and it is so confusing and so contradicting that we find that we are often trying to go 3 or 4 different places very quickly, each seeming to be the suspect. And so that was what was happening today. We had, it was a fairly chaotic scene. We were being called to various locations in that area about what appeared to be legitimate sightings of this individual. And there was some fear, of course, in the citizens in that area, of course. So our officers were responding to those calls. And I will say this: if you rewind the hand of time 4 years, we probably would not be where we are today right now. Technology played a huge role, but technology doesn't do any good without people who are determined to capture an individual that would do something like this. And today we saw where those two things came together in an amazing way. Nobody went home today. Everybody stayed. We have a fairly new real-time crime center by a local company named Fusus. Flock is a fairly new company. It's a local company as well. We have partnered with both of those companies, and they have brought us some amazing tools, as has the other jurisdictions in the Atlanta area. those tools are what really got us the clues that we needed to make this successful. And the people that were getting those clues from that technology made this happen. So we had a lot of clues, enough clues from both our real-time crime center and Flock to have a pretty good instinct on the calls that were coming in. We had checked a building that we knew that he had gone into, and we had cleared that building, and we knew that that he was not in that building. That building was unoccupied. It was being built. It was very close to Truist Park and the Battery, which of course was very concerning to us, as that's many people would be in that location. So we were concerned about the safety of our community in general, but particularly that one. So the operators in our real-time crime center were fielding many of these calls and looking at them and trying to determine which ones seemed legitimate, which ones did not. And most of that is a little bit of gut, but it was also based on some of the things that we were seeing on the map and what made sense to the real-time operators. One real-time operator in particular saw a 911 call come in, literally said, I think this is going to be him. And it was mostly instinct, but a lot of it did have to do with where this call was coming in and where this individual was supposed to be. That real-time operator communicated with the 911 operator that was in the command center with us. And we prioritized that call on the radio. And we had some officers, both undercover and uniformed officers. I believe, if I have my facts correct, that an undercover officer was the one that originally saw and confronted this individual and was able to then have backup from uniform officers that came in and took him into custody without incident. I would forget, and I will forget, some of the people and organizations to thank, but I can reiterate what Mayor Dickens and Chief Shearbaum said, and there's no reason to really go back into all of it, but I can tell you that it does not work without a cooperative community, a community that backs up the police, that allows the police to take risks and try to take violent people into custody. We have a very, very supportive community in Cobb County, a very supportive elected official group, and very supportive leadership. And that's very, very important for us. We had great community members who were calling us and giving us information. We have a 911 center who has shared their data with us. We have a DOT that gave us information and access to cameras that we did not have previously. And those cameras proved extremely helpful today. That is where we got the precise location of the building that he walked into. So the amazing cooperation between many that you would not really consider a public safety agency like the Department of Transportation, and all the public safety agencies in Cobb County, the cities. GSP helped us with Overwatch and with a helicopter. It's just you can't really thank people without missing someone. But hats off to everybody who was involved in this and all of the foundation of the technology that was laid. And lastly, I'll have to say that the communication between agencies in Metro Atlanta has probably never been this good, particularly from the Atlanta Police Department. Incredible outreach with Chief Shearbaum and the whole team here. And we were here just last week learning things from the Atlanta Police Department. So thank you to everyone who was involved in this. We're, of course, honored to have been a part of it, and thank everyone who was involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Chief. And thank you again to all of our partners here in law enforcement for their cooperation and professional work today. As you can see, this is a group project. This took multiple jurisdictions working together, highly trained officers who not only found this suspect, but brought him into custody to stand trial. So thanks to the professional and trained law enforcement in our region, this is an instance where justice is the case of the day. But that doesn't change the fact that one woman died, and there are 4 more in the hospital just a few blocks away from here, fighting for their lives. And I want to thank Grady Hospital the care that they've given immediately to those 4 individuals, those 4 women are now on the mend. And that's because of the outstanding work by our trauma center and those medical professionals at Grady. So we need to talk about the shooting that happened today. This was a horrible act of gun violence, but equally horrifying is that we know that this is not unique in our country. In 2023 alone, there have been nearly 200 reported instances of mass shootings in America. We have taken extraordinary measures in Atlanta to bring down violent crime in this city. We've enhanced our policing. We've invested in non-policing activities that make our city safer. We've invested in the root causes of crime at the same time that we're cracking down on repeat offenders who commit violence in our community. Those measures have produced great results. Before today, we were down 26% in violent crimes across our city. And those are not just stats. Those are real people who are not going to be victims of violence. But we know there is more that needs to be done. But what more can we do as a city? What more can we do as a community, as a state, or as a nation? We have a national epidemic on gun violence in America, and we have a serious problem with how we are treating mental health in this nation. One thing we know is that it doesn't have to be this way. Other nations have challenges with mental health, but they don't seem to have nearly the level of gun violence that we do in America. So it's the guns that we're talking about. We live in a state and in a nation where people have easy and wide access to firearms that are used to kill other fellow Americans. We need immediate action that meets the urgency of this crisis. We need universal background checks, and we need to close the gun purchase loopholes. We need better red flag laws that allow judges to remove guns from people who pose risks. We need to do everything we can to ensure that folks who shouldn't have guns can't get them. There's a lot of talk about Second Amendment rights. We need more actions about the rights of our citizens to go about their lives, to be able to go to a doctor's office, to a supermarket, to a gas station, or to their school without the threat of being gunned down. We all need to do our part to stop these horrific acts from happening again and again. So you will be hearing more from me on this. But today, we are grateful for the women and men who brought this to a close. The team of people that back up the team of people that you see standing here. And our prayers are with the victims and with the families that were injured or killed today. With that, I am happy to take your questions.
Mayor Dickinson, there has been an extraordinary decrease in the homicide rate in Atlanta. But events like this, particularly when there's lots of national media attention, cause people to think that crime in Atlanta is increasing. How do you address that sort of perceptual mismatch?
Yeah, thank you for that, for clearly stating that violent crime is down in Atlanta. Homicides are down 40-something% up until this very moment. I don't know what the stat is now after today, but violent crime is down in Atlanta. And so the perception may be because of this mass shooting that crime is all over the place, but the truth of the matter is it's down. And so reality is reality. The numbers show that it's down, but we still can't rest on that. We have to do policing activities, more police training, more police patrolling, but we also have to do non-policing activities like making sure people have, good jobs, making sure that individuals, our youth have youth opportunities, after school programs, summer employment, making sure that we invest in our young people, but also do anti-violence training, de-escalation training, helping people to resolve conflicts and to get rid of, the gang leaders, illegal guns, as well as illegal drug sales. And so all of that is a part of our ongoing collaboration with the City of Atlanta, APD, as well as our federal partners, our state and local partners, Georgia State Patrol, as well as our Fulton County Sheriff, Cobb County, as well as our DA. So all of us are working together on those things to fight gangs, guns, and drugs, but also those things that are just related to making sure people are healthy and have opportunities.
Mayor Dick, just one quick question. I know that there's been members of your city's SWAT team that have been proactive and gone out to some of these businesses and helped train employees. But in light of the world we're living in now, is there any talk among yourself, city leaders, about possibly trying to form a partnership with the Atlanta business community and your police department to work on drills and things like that? Because obviously this is the world we're living in.
Yeah, we unfortunately, just like we have fire drills and tornado drills, active shooting drills are becoming a necessity. As a matter of fact, and Chief Van Housen can talk about this, I think there was a active shooter training drill going on near Battery Park by a business in that area today as we were closing in on this suspect together. So it is very important that businesses take this serious. My cabinet, our leadership, we've had active shooter training of what to do, how to get out of the situation, and how to maintain a level head in the instance. And it's also requires us to have professional training so that when police officers and firefighters encounter an active shooting situation, that it's not the first time they are being prepared on that. And so that's why we have to make sure that we have adequate training. And our adequate training includes during cadet school, but also ongoing training that these officers and personnel have over and over annually to make sure that they're prepared for instances such as this, or instances such as what you saw last week at a gas station on Moreland and Memorial, or on and on and on across this nation.
I know this is an ongoing investigation, but do we know there's been reports that the suspect was suffering some type of mental health episode? Have you guys been able to confirm that? And also, do we know if the firearm he was using was obtained legally or?
Chief Hampton, you want to talk to that?
Again, as you know, most of my statements is all that is still under an investigation. We won't talk about any mental health that the subject may or may not have. We have the firearm and we will be running any checks on that to see if it was stolen, if it was legally purchased. So we haven't.
The weapon was.
I will not. It was I will say it was a handgun. So
there's a lot of unknowns right now in terms of the suspect, what you can release, but a lot of people want to know why he was there. If you guys have learned any information about why he was there, possible motives, if he was familiar with any of the victims, what have you learned about the suspect since getting him in custody?
okay, what I will share, we know that he had an appointment at the facility. And again, why he did what he did, all that is still under an investigation. And just remember, again, we have families. First time that they are hearing some of this stuff is right now. And so we want to be respectful of them and what they're going through. And then we also still have a trial that we have to put forth. So a lot of that information we won't release at this time, but we do know that he was there for an appointment.
Any update on the victims?
Right now, we still know that they're in critical but stable condition right now.
Did you have any contact with the family of the shooter, or I know you can't say his name, but did the family talk to the police about what was going on?
Yes, we spoke with the family. They have been cooperative with our investigation, have been extremely helpful.
What did they say?
Again, all that is still under investigation. And so I'm not going to go into exactly what they said.
Was the suspect's mother on location at any point today?
Yes.
Sometimes in these situations, family members can help investigators. Were they instrumental in helping at all in this?
Extremely. Again, they provided key information to help us further our investigation and again, to lead in a successful conclusion.
Could they help you with how he received the gun or how they got the gun?
And again, that's still under investigation, and won't release any of that information at this time.
Mayor, this question for you. For many people in Atlanta who we talk to, this has kind of put a fear in their hearts. What does tomorrow look like? What is moving forward for the city look like?
Yeah, so right now we've had a successful end to a traumatic day. And today is a day that we can go home and rest easy, that the individual that caused harm in our community is under arrest thanks to this great partnership with Cobb County, Fulton County, City of Atlanta, Georgia State Patrol, and all of these great partners. So I hope that the city, the region rests easy, that he's in custody, but I also hope that we stay vigilant to continue to look at a future where individuals that shouldn't have a gun in possession won't have one, and also that individuals will be brought to justice, and also that we deal with these things that are mental health or easy access to guns. And so tonight, I hope that we rest easier, knowing that he is in custody, and this all happened all in one day, from being around noon, and then before the sun was set, he was in handcuffs with Cobb County, and he'll be brought to Fulton County to stand trial. And he's alive to be able to stand trial, and that shows the professionalism and the great training of all law enforcement in this region. Thank you all. Oh, yeah, good. Yes, Madam DA is here, who will be the one that will make sure that this individual stands trial in accordance with the statutes of our laws. Thank you, Madam DA, for being here. Did you want to make any comments? Well, thank you, Madam DA, and thank you all partners, Cobb County, Fulton County Sheriff, of course, Atlanta Police Department, Chief Shearbaum, and Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. Thank you all. Oh, and of course, Grady.
Andre Dickens of Atlanta really
over that condominium complex off of Heritage, where this continues to unfold, because even after the suspect has been taken into custody, there's still additional work to do out there. We are expecting that joint news conference from Atlanta and Cobb County Police to begin maybe in the next 10 minutes or so. As Jeff mentioned, our Cody Alcorn is there waiting for that to begin. We're going to break into our coverage and get you that information from police, those updates, as soon as we get them. But we believe this, let's take it right now, or we're seeing right now, is that the suspect?
Right, yes.
All right, and you see him in that attire, as we mentioned, that was shown from images that were given to police. You see him being escorted there by law enforcement officials right there, walking very slowly through. And again, Jeff, we are told that this happened without incident. He was just walking in this condominium complex, and according to our reporting from our Cody Alcorn, act as if nothing had happened.
And we're in the same clothes that he did, the same clothes that we saw during the screen grabs from the surveillance video. That's exactly what he was wearing. And he is walking. I mean, it is a very low-key kind of operation in terms of what we are seeing right now, as opposed to the expectation of not knowing what to expect from a suspect who has allegedly committed these crimes.
And there's so many questions that remain that are going to be answered, hopefully, in the next few days and hours as we await new information from Atlanta Police. You see that is an Atlanta Police vehicle there on the scene. We understand that he will be transported to Atlanta Police headquarters, where that questioning will resume.
We really don't know a lot about him. We know that he was born in October of 1998. We know he served in the U.S. Coast Guard, and he left the Coast Guard in January of this year. But above and beyond that, we know there was a criminal record in Henry County. It was a marijuana possession, and then he had a couple of probation issues that also is on his record. But above and beyond that, there was no any indication of any violence in his background, at least in terms of his criminal record. And again, that issue of what led to all of this, that's simply one of the major questions that we certainly have tonight that we want to ask Atlanta Police if they are able to answer it, or perhaps they are unable to do so, given the fact that he has only been under arrest within the last 25 minutes or so.
And again, we are taking a live look from our 11 Alive Sky Tracker as he has been placed into this Atlanta vehicle from this Atlanta police vehicle, where we understand he will be transported to. This is a view from our 11 Alive Sky Tracker over that condominium complex off of Heritage, where this continues to unfold, because even after the suspect has been taken into custody, there's still additional work to do out there. We are expecting that joint news conference from Atlanta and Cobb County Police to begin maybe in the next 10 minutes or so. As Jeff mentioned, our Cody Alcorn is there waiting for that to begin. We're going to break into our coverage and get you that information from police, those updates, as soon as we get them. But we believe this, let's take it right now, or we're seeing right now, is that the suspect?
Right now. Yes.
All right. And you see him in that attire, as we mentioned, that was shown from images that were given to police. You see him being escorted there by law enforcement officials right there, walking very slowly through. And again, Jeff, we are told that this happened without incident. He was just walking in this condominium complex, and according to our reporting from our Cody Alcorn, act as if nothing had happened.
And wearing the same clothes that he did, the same clothes that we saw during the screen grabs from the surveillance video. That's exactly what he was wearing. And he is walking. I mean, it is a very low-key kind of operation in terms of what we are seeing right now, as opposed to the expectation of not knowing what to expect from a suspect who has allegedly committed these crimes.
And there's so many questions that remain that are going to be answered hopefully in the next few days and hours as we await new information from Atlanta Police. You see that is an Atlanta Police vehicle there on the scene. We understand that he will be transported to Atlanta Police headquarters, where that questioning will resume.
We really don't know a lot about him. We know that he was born in October of 1998. We know he served in the U.S. Coast Guard, and he left the Coast Guard in January of this year. But above and beyond that, we know there was a criminal record in Henry County. It was a marijuana possession, and then he had a couple of probation issues that also is on his record. But above and beyond that, there was no any indication of any violence in his background, at least in terms of his criminal record. And again, that issue of what led to all of this, that's simply one of the major questions that we certainly have tonight that we want to ask Atlanta Police if they are able to answer it, or perhaps they are unable to do so, given the fact that he has only been under arrest within the last 25 minutes or so.
And again, we are taking a live look from our 11 Alive Sky Tracker as he has been placed into this Atlanta vehicle from this Atlanta police vehicle, where we understand he will be transported to Atlanta Police headquarters. Another question that will be outstanding, Jeff, is what exactly led police to this location? Was there a tip from someone in the community? Right. Was there information from family or friends? What led them to this particular location? We do know there was a $10,000 reward that was out there for his capture and arrest. Billboards out around the community asking for the public's help in locating him so that he could be placed into custody and placed into arrest.
And we were the first to be able to show you these images, these live pictures from Cobb County outside this condominium complex where Dion Patterson was apprehended about 26 and a half minutes ago. And among the questions I think that we will have for Atlanta Police is, where was he over the last 7.5 hours? Was he in this complex? Was he milling about? Was he wandering about in the parking lot with the weapon exposed, as Cody Alcorn's source told him? Where was he killing all of that time? Where was he spending all of that time, so to speak, that law enforcement was unable to find him?
That's right, because the information that we have from Cobb County Police earlier in the evening, just a couple of hours ago, is that 12:30 was the last spotting of him on a GDOT camera. 12:30, but it wasn't until a couple of hours later at 2:30 that Cobb County Police actually became aware of that spotting on that camera. So in all of that time, Jeff, what has been transpiring, what has been going on, where has he been, was he at other locations? We know Cobb County Police said that they had reports of spottings throughout their community. None of them turned out to be fruitful until this moment now.
Cody Alcorn also had told us that this was not, didn't believe, his source had mentioned it was not a premeditated murder. Thus, the escape, which was so effective for him for so many hours, he was on the run. And, law enforcement had no idea. And the other curiosity about all of this is, and we've talked about this extensively, is about, everybody has an iPhone, a cell phone, and a camera affixed to either a doorbell or a doorknob or to a phone. And yet there was really no indication of where he was after that sighting around 12:30 today. He was pretty much a figure that was not seen by anyone. There were really no tips.
Again, that is being investigated by the Lake Wales Police Department down in Polk County. As a part of their investigation, they put out information, and BOLOs and their detectives and investigators were brought to the city of Sanford. That was probably in the early morning hours of this morning, around 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a report of the suspect's vehicle being located directly across from the Summerlin Hotel. That vehicle was noticed a couple of times. It was moved, and ultimately the Lake Wales police officers, detectives, and the Sanford police detectives saw the suspect walking across the street, and around 3 o'clock in the morning contacted the Seminole County Sheriff's Office and combined municipality SWAT team. A moment there. Our SWAT team consists of representatives from 5 of the 7 municipalities. And when we're fully staffed, we come together, we train, we work together. SWAT team arrived on scene at around 6 a.m. And at the same time, court orders were in the process of getting a search warrant for the hotel. There was ongoing negotiations by way of cell phone from the Lake Wales police officers who had already had somewhat of a relationship. During those conversations, they were talking with the suspect's brother. In the background, they could hear the suspect. So there was a pretty reliability confirmation that he was at this location. And then ultimately, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office combined SWAT effort crisis negotiation team took over those negotiations. And at one time, they appeared to be pretty successful. However, our suspect did at numerous times, both with the Lake Wales police investigators as well as Sanford and members of our crisis negotiation team, make the comment that this would end one of 3 ways. I'm going to kill myself, you're going to kill me, or I'm going to surrender. Seems like a natural 3 scenario way to end this thing. But the negotiations worked so well at one time, our team was able to convince the suspect to actually exit the hotel room. Now, he was staying in a hotel directly next to his brother that was in the hotel. We were able to convince the brother to come out. We were able to take the brother to safety. He was no longer there. And then the negotiations were continuing for hours. I mean, the last thing we want to have to do is use lethal force. Ideally, we would like to talk somebody and bring them into custody. At one time, we were able to talk him into putting a handheld firearm down. Again, we don't know the caliber of the gun, but he had a handgun in his hand. He had a handgun in his pocket at one time. And as those negotiations continued, we were able to get him to place the gun down on the ground and step away from it. As he stepped away from the firearm on the ground, we utilize, our SWAT team utilized what's called a less lethal option. It's a 40 millimeter foam baton, it's called. It's a projectile that comes out that is not intended to create fatality or serious injuries, just simply neutralize the threat to allow us to go in there and apprehend the suspect. We successfully deployed that, but it had little effect on the suspect. The suspect immediately went for the gun on the ground. And at this time, we don't know if he actually picked the gun up, put it in his hand, but he was going for the firearm when three of our SWAT team members, one member of the specialized unit of the Sanford Police Department opened fire, neutralizing the threat, and the suspect is now deceased. The people who fired were two members of the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, one member of the Altamont Springs Police Department, and one member of the Sanford Police Department. That's why Chief Cecil Smith, Chief James Riggs, great partners to our effort, great participants with the SWAT team, were able to come over there. As soon as the suspect hit the ground, our SWAT team operators moved in. This is an incredibly difficult situation. One of our SWAT operators actually immediately started to administer CPR to the decedent after the shooting. Of course, that was unsuccessful, but our operator was then covered in the suspect's blood. And now we have asked FDLE to come in, as we typically do, to conduct a full and independent review and investigation of all the circumstances leading up to this case. What we know about Al Joseph Stenston, he's 38 years old. He has mild encounters with the criminal justice system. Many people would say they're pretty significant. He's been arrested a couple of times for burglary. He's had a couple of charges in the past for domestic violence, but we're still gathering his complete history to find out what was actually going on and all of those circumstances and details. As you can imagine, we're going to wait until FDLE conducts that full independent review of the circumstances, which will include interviewing of our SWAT team members, the folks that are out there. And at this point in time, there is no threat to our community. Any threat that was presented here was very specific to the incidents occurring down at the Lake Wales area where the initial incident occurred, and then of course relocated up here. I want to thank our partners, of course, all of the Seminole County municipalities, of course, our partners at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to coming in and picking up this investigation, and all of the people who are helping put the dots together that may have seen suspicious activity, noticed the car, that will kind of help us better understand what's going on in the coming days. So that's a high level report trying to kind of, I don't know any of the other details surrounding the incident down in Polk County. I think that the Lake Wales Police Department to speak to Chief Cecil Smith to see if he has anything that he would like to add.
It's a great. We were locating this individual at 2 o'clock this morning. Our officers realized that something was wrong, and that immediately reached out to the sheriff's department to say, hey, listen, we need to put something together to try to bring this to an end. The unfortunate end is that this individual chose to end it in the manner in which he did. As the sheriff has indicated, it's still a very active investigation. FDLE is doing their part at this point. We're making sure that our officers, the officers that were involved, are being taken care of, and we will continue to provide the best service we possibly can here in Seminole County.
Why Sanford?
We have no idea.
He doesn't have any ties to the city?
What we know right now, there is no ties to the city at all.
Was his brother living in the hotel? Was he staying there prior, or did they both come here together?
From what we have right now, it appears that they both got here at the same time.
Any of his other family members here with him?
As far as we know, it's just his brother.
Will his brother face any charges at all?
We'll leave that up to the state's attorney to make that decision.
Notice to bring it up, Chief. So Slumberland Motel is a bit of a well-known locally, but it's not exactly, what you would imagine somebody would pick as their destination. So you just think that he was leaving the scene of whatever occurred in Lake Wales and randomly picked that spot?
Well, Dave, I think it's important to mention that his brother was already here. So he went here because he...
Well, that wasn't clear to me. Why was his brother already here?
His brother was living here.
In a hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. So his brother was here prior
Correct.
to him showing up this morning?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't clear the first time around. So he had a family member already in Sanford at the Slumberland, and he with his brother.
I would say he was staying at the hotel As you know, Summerland is a day-to-day, week-to-week type of hotel. So to say that he's a resident, I would not classify him as a resident, but he was staying in a hotel.
But the brother was already here long before whatever happened in Lake Wales.
I'm going to say that's correct.
Well, yeah, I don't know that long before.
Well,
I don't know that we know how long he's been here, but he was here.
It wasn't hours.
I don't know. Do you guys know? We don't know yet.
Okay.
We don't know yet.
As far as the other people who were at the hotel when this happened, were they all evacuated? What happened there?
Essentially, we had many of them stay in place, shelter in place. There were a couple of people who we moved out of the hotel when we felt that it was safe enough to do that.
Was there any? What was the danger? How would you describe the danger to those people?
Considering that they had been in constant conversation with him, both inside and outside the hotel, we don't believe that there was that great of a threat. But we wanted to make sure that they were safe, so we did move some of the individuals who we could. But those who are really connected to that room, we made them shelter in place.
Chief, can you talk at all about what happened at the Circle K this morning?
That one is still under investigation. I've been here since 5:30 this morning, mostly dealing with this situation here. So as we get additional information, we'll put that out as well.
But that is a homicide investigation unrelated to this, right?
It's still an ongoing investigation.
So you can only say it's a shooting investigation.
Yes. Unrelated to this, completely unrelated to what we have going on here.
All right, Chief.
You know, I do want to wrap just by, again, commending the actions of these officers that are out here. You know, we never take for granted the way that they train, the way that they prepare. Nobody wants to come into work on a day like this and actually have to use lethal force. But the way they've responded, the way that they put themselves in harm's way in work is a blessing to our community and our organizations. And from our perspective, they handled this thing with textbook precision. Negotiations going on, try to neutralize the threat, got him to walk away from the weapon, used a less lethal option. He went for the gun. They put him down and then immediately started to administer CPR to him. That is a lot for these folks to take on, and I think that our community should be incredibly grateful that men and women will take on this career and this passion to be able to do it.
Sheriff, people are wondering if he put his firearm down, why fire the full baton?
This guy is a murderer, a threat, and he did not fully comply with the orders to walk far enough away from the firearm where we felt like he could not get to it in a matter of time where he could present a threat to the officers that were on scene. This wasn't a scenario that he put the firearm down, he placed his hands behind his back, he walked a distance away from the firearm. Should those circumstances have occurred, we would have taken him into custody. He was close enough proximity to the firearm where he still presented a threat to the people that were on scene.
Thanks, Sheriff. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Chief. Thank you.